Jay-Z ain't answering the phone?
He ain't answering the
One person who was always anti-Diddy and was always speaking about Diddy as a problematic person was 50 Cent. And it turns out that it's just been announced that he's created a docu-series on Netflix. I can't wait to see this. The other end of that, every person who has tried to speak out about this, who has tried to speak out about the industry, the type of people that are controlling the industry, the attacks that people face from the media if they try to speak out.
I haven't had issues with Puffy. I don't like him like that. Like, I don't like things that he would do and make me uncomfortable.
So we're speaking on Diddy. We're speaking on Puff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't have that thing where, we ain't had no thing. I wasn't sending nothing at him, big. If it was on the street side like that, we would be actively doing things to each other.
Right.
And we wasn't doing that, right? So
I've never been to a Diddy party. She was the most hated too. Who partied with us? I know it's fun. Bad Boy House. I never been there. Daddy's house. Yeah. So I'm trying to tell you, them niggas had a lot of fun. Like, I wouldn't say, I know it's cool to be down with Diddy and Jay-Z, but we was down with 50, had beef with everybody.
I explained why I didn't hang out with him, right? Because there's a little fluffy stuff going on. It's not my style.
Not your scene.
They hug you from the front and the back at the same time.
It's not your thing.
Well, if we have to pick a winner this week, clearly the prosecution won. Cassie Ventura was prosecution's star witness, and it is not unexpected that she would really tell a compelling
big moment
story.
in the trial came when Cassie was being cross-examined by Diddy's lawyer about her relationship with Kid Cudi. She says that this relationship was brief. It started when she and Diddy were on a break in their relationship, and she said that when Diddy found out, he was furious. He beat her, he threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car, and later in 2012, Kid Cudi's car...
You're not gonna believe what went down in court. Out of nowhere, 50 Cent showed up at the Diddy trial, and the moment he walked through those doors, everything changed. The courtroom, already tense, just froze. For years, 50 Cent and Diddy have had bad blood. But this wasn't just some social media beef. This was serious. He wasn't there to watch. He came with purpose, and everyone could feel it. So what went down at that trial with 50 barging in like a boss? Let's find out.
I also didn't participate. I also didn't go to those parties.
Yeah.
So a lot of the celebrity culture that you don't hear saying anything is because they participated to a degree.
So was there a reason you never went to those parties back in the day? Obviously, I know what's going on there, but is there a reason you never did?
I'm just not with all that freaky shit. All of the stuff that he's doing, I'm not into that type of stuff. I'm just a little more, maybe you could say basic or normal.
They said you wrote 2 verses for Diddy. They said you wrote it and it's him confessing the crime. Did you see this? The Let's Get It.
I ain't telling him to say that.
And the other one was on the I Get the
Puffy was playing with your boo. You know it was in Miami.
He says things, he doesn't even know what he's saying is like fruity.
But I also...
The next day, they go to dinner. Diddy says, do you want to do a freak-off? And Cassie says, yes. So the prosecutor said, well, why did you want to do a freak-off? And she said, because I was afraid he'd threaten me again.
You have something huge coming up, a documentary about P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Did he do it, right?
Yeah.
I know
He did it.
You've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it happened.
Diddy, sitting at the defense table, barely looked up all morning. But when 50 Cent walked in wearing a sharp gray suit and dark sunglasses, the room went still. Even the sound of shuffling papers stopped. People turned. Heads followed him as he walked down the center aisle like it was a runway. He didn't say a word. He just sat near the back, folded his arms, and locked eyes with Diddy.
Inside the courtroom, it's pretty somber. I think the real gravity of the charges, the nature of the allegations have been sinking in.
Puff haven't liked each other business-wise for a long time.
Well, that's why it's only business. It was really, away from that, I explained why I didn't hang out with him, right? Because it's fluffy stuff going on.
It's not your scene.
It's not my style.
Not your scene.
They hug you from the front and the back at the same time.
It's not your thing.
It's not my thing, bro.
From there, everything started unraveling. Diddy's legal team scrambled. One lawyer leaned in, whispering frantically to him. But Diddy didn't respond. He just kept staring at 50 Cent like he'd seen a ghost. Cassie's attorney turned, the prosecution took notice, and even the judge paused. She acknowledged 50 Cent with a slight nod and continued the session. But the mood had completely shifted. This wasn't just about Cassie anymore. Witnesses said Diddy's whole demeanor changed. His jaw clenched, his fingers twitched, and it was obvious. He knew 50 didn't come for show. He came for something bigger. As the session went on, the pressure in the room kept building. It wasn't just legal anymore. This was personal, public and powerful.
If you ain't got nothing on it.
It's got the new baby oil, boy. Come on, man, it's going down.
This ain't baby oil. This ain't baby oil. I still got everybody looking.
Nothing wrong with having some baby oil. 1,000 bottles. A lot of bottles. It's a little excessive. Nothing wrong with playing with it. You know what I mean? As long as it's consensual.
Yeah. You see things like the white party be there, and then they have a little baby like in a sandwich. Like they're hugging him to the front and the back and stuff. And I'm like, yo, get off of him. That's one of my favorite new artists. Like, yo, get off him.
When P. Diddy could have signed 50, we in the office. It's me and 50. But 50, I didn't think he going in there with the intentions to sign with Diddy. So he seen Diddy. I know he wasn't going to sign to Diddy, but he took the meeting. Right. He just went in there just seeing whatever deals he can get.
Right. When the judge called for a lunch break, the media chaos exploded. Reporters flooded the courthouse steps. Cameras turned on, mics were raised. Everyone wanted to know what 50 Cent was going to say. For weeks he'd been posting cryptic messages and digging up old interviews. But now, he was here, in person. This wasn't trolling anymore. This was a direct hit.
And when I say people respond, how people respond to things matter, like the internet will take to it and just go off with it. Meek responds being the uncomfortability. He goes, yo, I gotta spend $100,000 to find out why my name is in this like this. And it's in it only because he's uncomfortable. You don't hear him talking about French. French was right there. Right? Why you get so quiet? You guys make me feel like I'm scared.
Well, no,
I do understand that I don't believe everybody.
Right.
Like the accusations are way too fast and it's wild. I'm like
Meek Mill tweeted, I want to hire an investigative team to find out every specific detail involving Meek Mill named to Diddy case. I also want to look at who's powering the media involving Meek, anything to do with Buddy, and ends in quote, something not right.
You and Puff haven't liked each other business-wise for a long time.
Well, that's why. It's only business. It was really, away from that, I explained why I didn't hang out with him, right? Because fluffy stuff going on.
It's not your scene.
It's not my style.
Not your scene.
They hug you from the front and the back at the same time.
It's not your thing.
It's not my thing, bro.
What was the original annoyance between, it was just like...
Well, when you start to get the momentum, he's like, yo, we gotta hang out. Yo, when we going? I got uncomfortable with him because the way he was asking to try and get me to hang out with him was like, yo, I'll take you shopping. And I'm like, what you mean? Like, that's something you say to a woman you're attracted to, maybe.
Right. At Chris Lighty's wedding, he told me he'd take me shopping. I looked at him like, what'd you just say?
It's just weird, bro. Like, and now you start to see a lot of the weird stuff that was there. It looks like it all lines up, don't it? It was not in the closet. It was in front of you, and you wasn't seeing it because you see the beards, or you see the girls. So you didn't look at them the way it actually is to a degree.
And while Diddy had walked in with a wall of lawyers and extra security, it was 50 who shifted the balance of power just by showing up. From that point on, everything felt different. The silence around Diddy was starting to crack, and people were finally paying attention. Then 50 Cent finally spoke, and he didn't hold back. He said he was there because he had watched the industry protect the wrong people for far too long. In his words, Cassie was brave for coming forward, and as long as he was around, she wasn't going to stand alone. This wasn't some PR stunt. 50 was serious. He started laying out everything he'd seen over the years. Disturbing behavior from Diddy that made him uncomfortable. Stuff others brushed off or laughed about, but to him, it wasn't funny anymore. He said everyone always kind of knew something was off, but nobody spoke up. Why? Because Diddy had power. Because he could end careers with a phone call. Then came the shocker. 50 revealed he'd been working with Cassie's legal team behind the scenes. He had shared photos, old phone records, and even a statement from a former bodyguard who said he saw some of the disturbing things firsthand at Diddy's private parties. 50 made it clear he was done staying quiet, done being called crazy just because he said what others were too afraid to.
They said you wrote 2 verses for Diddy. They said you wrote it and it's him confessing the crime. Did you see it? Was the Let's Get It.
I tell him to say that.
And the other one was on the I Get Money remix.
Yeah, help me with that. Jay, help me with that. Jay, help me with that. Jay did that part right there. What he said.
Man, cut it out, man.
Shootouts, coast to beat. I wasn't around for that. I was like East Coast, West Coast. That was it. And then Keefe D comes out and says, I'm not involved in it.
You wrote those verses for real?
Yeah, we collaborated, me and Jay on that.
we collaborated.
Cause what's the name, that part, there's certain things that he wanted to say, and Jay knew he wanted to insert it into the record.
Yeah.
And then he would like, yo, put this in it.
And then he dropped the real bombshell. He was funding a full independent investigation, private investigators, no press gimmicks. He said it wasn't about clicks or attention. It was about the people who had been hurt, and the people still too scared to speak. Cassie's team later thanked him for backing her up, for believing in her, and standing up for the truth. Meanwhile, Diddy's lawyers tried to brush the whole thing off, calling it a media stunt. But they were clearly shaken. You could see it. Back in the courtroom, the vibe was intense. Diddy wouldn't even look toward the gallery. His fingers kept tapping the table, and his breath got heavier. Meanwhile, 50 sat in the back, quiet, arms folded, just watching. The defense asked for a private sidebar with the judge. Word started going around that they were thinking about requesting a gag order to stop people from talking about the trial outside of court. But honestly, it was already too late. The headlines were everywhere. Footage of 50's statement had gone viral in hours. Celebrities who had stayed quiet were now retweeting Cassie's lawsuit. Others started posting cryptic messages. The silence that had surrounded Diddy for years, it was breaking, and it was 50 Cent who threw the first punch. When court resumed, Cassie stepped back onto the stand, but this time it was different. She walked in stronger, more confident, more grounded. You could feel it. She wasn't just testifying anymore, she was standing up. The jury noticed it. Everyone did. Her voice had changed too. It was still calm, but now there was a fire in it. She wasn't just telling her story, she was making a statement. Cassie confirmed she had been working with 50's team, and since his support went public, more witnesses had come forward. She told the jury she wasn't scared anymore. People were finally listening, and that made all the difference. Then she began sharing details she'd never been able to talk about before. One of those moments was from a trip to the Hamptons in 2017. She said she'd been locked in a guest house for 2 days, just because she texted another artist. She said Diddy told her she had embarrassed him in front of the industry, that she was his property.
The next day, they go to dinner. Diddy says, do you want to do a freak-off? And Cassie says, yes. So the prosecutor said, well, why did you want to do a freak-off? And she said, because I was afraid he'd threaten me again.
The defense tried to shut it down, but the judge didn't go for it. Cassie kept going, breaking down what life with Diddy really looked like. She explained that there were these silent rules she had to follow. Where to stand at parties, who she could talk to, even when she was allowed to leave the room. It wasn't love, it was control, plain and simple. Then she paused, turned slightly toward the gallery, and looked out across the room. Her eyes were steady, and what she said next hit like a hammer. She told the courtroom that some people in that very room had seen what Diddy had done, and that she hoped that they would speak up too. She could hear somebody exhale sharply in the back. It was Diddy. He was staring straight at her, face frozen, somewhere between disbelief and rage. One of his lawyers touched his shoulder, but he didn't react. In the back, 50 Cent didn't move either, but those watching noticed when he gave a small, approving nod. Cassie's testimony felt different this time, not just because of what she said, but because she wasn't standing alone anymore. Having someone like 50 Cent in the room backing her up gave her story a new kind of weight, and the jury noticed. A few of them started scribbling notes. One leaned forward in their seat. Another slowly shook their head at certain parts of her story. This wasn't just Cassie against Diddy anymore. It had become something bigger. Cassie, 50 Cent, and a wave of momentum crashing into the carefully crafted image Diddy had protected for years. And it was starting to crumble, right there in public, in front of cameras, reporters, and the jury.
I took a pill, but it was for me to perform better. For her to remember, buddy.
I didn't give her a drink so she forget.
I didn't do nothing Puffy did.
Yes, I took the drink. I gave me the drug to perform.
Yeah, no, it was just so excitement. There's so much excitement that there was no reason for me to put something in our drink. I need you to remember.
So she can remember and possibly love me for that.
Diddy's legal team looked nothing like the confident, media-polished group that had walked into court on day one. After 50 Cent's appearance and Cassie's strong, composed testimony, they seemed scattered and nervous. According to insiders, the team even held an emergency meeting in their hotel room that night. It reportedly lasted until almost 4 a.m. Leaked notes from that meeting showed they were split on strategy. Some wanted to keep denying everything. Others suggested a new approach, to try to make Diddy look like a flawed man shaped by his environment, someone who made mistakes but didn't deserve to be publicly destroyed. That shift would be a huge pivot from their original "he did nothing wrong" defense. The next morning, the prosecution wasted no time taking advantage of the chaos. They filed a motion to bring in 2 new witnesses, both former employees who claimed they had direct knowledge of the events Cassie described. One was a former tour manager who said he saw Diddy scream at Cassie, then storm out and punch a wall. The other was a former assistant who said she quit after being told to monitor Cassie's every move and report back by the hour. The defense objected again. The judge overruled, saying this all pointed to a pattern of behavior. Meanwhile, the jury was fully locked in. One juror, a middle-aged woman who'd stayed stone-faced most of the trial, was now bent over her notebook writing fast. Another, a younger guy who looked distracted in earlier sessions, didn't take his eyes off the witness stand once. And Diddy? He looked worn down. He wasn't taking notes anymore. He kept whispering to his lawyers, then mumbling under his breath. A courtroom sketch artist even caught him with his head in his hands. This wasn't the same man who used to dominate the music industry. This was someone watching his power, his entire image, fall apart piece by piece. The moment 50 Cent walked out of that courtroom, the internet exploded. His appearance and everything he said spread like wildfire across TikTok, Instagram, and X. Within just half a day, over 60 million people had watched the clip of him backing Cassie and calling out the entire music industry for protecting people like Diddy for way too long. For years, no one spoke Diddy's name publicly. There were whispers, but that was it until now. Usher quietly unfollowed him. Mary J. Blige wiped their photos from her feed. Justin Bieber didn't just delete old posts. He shared a cryptic message about realizing too late who people really are. More voices followed. Cardi B posted about protecting women, no matter how powerful the man is. Drake liked a tweet calling out those who stayed silent. Even Viola Davis and Gabrielle Union stepped in to support Cassie. The biggest surprise came from a producer who had stayed quiet for over a decade. They said they had worked on 3 of Diddy's projects and had seen too much to stay silent any longer. That single post racked up over 300,000 likes. Inside Revolt, Diddy's media company, things were falling apart. Sponsors pulled out. Emergency meetings were happening. One employee said people were bailing fast. No one wanted to be the last one standing next to him. Meanwhile, 50 Cent kept posting. He shared a backstage photo of him and Cassie with the caption that she always deserved better. Another post simply said, "Day 5. It starts here." No yelling, just precision.
You ain't got nothing on it.
Got the new baby oil, bro.
Come on, man, it's going down.
This ain't baby oil. This ain't still got everybody looking.
Nothing wrong with having some baby oil. 1,000 bottles. A lot of bottles. It's a little excessive. Nothing wrong with playing with it. You know what I mean? As long as it's consensual.
Yeah. How many people have different habits? My experience with baby oil is you can't use a lot of it like that much.
Yeah.
You know, like,
not a lot.
It's not. My whole body is oiled like I'm like a oil slicker. We only use a quarter of it. A quarter of the bottle will have your whole body shredded. So what the deal, bro? Why do you need 1,000 bottles of it? I mean, come on. I'm gonna go to Freeport and we're gonna do it. What in the puppy?
In court, Cassie returned to the stand. This time, it wasn't just about her. It was about the system that kept her trapped. She called it control architecture. Her schedule, her travel, her conversations, it was all monitored. She talked about a 2016 moment backstage at an awards show. She laughed at another artist's joke. Diddy, she said, slapped her phone away and accused her of disrespecting him. Then came the moment that stunned the room. Cassie played an old audio clip. Diddy's voice boomed through the speakers, warning her not to push him. The room went silent. Her team said the recording came from a forgotten iPad she'd found weeks earlier. The defense tried to block it. The judge let it play. Diddy didn't respond. He went pale. A lawyer leaned in, but he didn't move. A sketch artist captured him dropping his pen, eyes locked on the speaker, like he knew that moment had just changed everything.
Cross-examining Cassie, the star witness. So what we heard from prosecutors and the story told was that of an incredibly brutal, horrific relationship that Cassie had to suffer through. What the defense is now telling, or what they're trying to tell, is a love story mixed with a healthy dose of kink.
Yes, they are clearly wanting to show the jury that you've heard this side of their relationship with all of the graphic details of their sex. Now we want to show you that this was really a loving relationship, maybe even most of the time. They have pages, more than 40 pages of text messages exchanged between them over the years.
By the end of the day, even his supporters looked shaken. That cool, composed image, gone. Cassie's testimony made something clear. This wasn't just about a relationship. It was about unchecked power and forced silence. And the tension? It had already been brewing. Rumors were flying online, and Justin Bieber's cryptic posts the night before only added to the buzz. With security tightened around the courthouse, everyone knew something big was coming. They just didn't expect it to land like that. Then, at exactly 10:13 a.m., the moment hit. 50 Cent walked into the courtroom. He didn't sneak in through a side entrance. He didn't bring an entourage. He walked in solo, wearing a black suit and dark sunglasses, straight down the middle aisle like he owned the room. He didn't wave, he didn't speak, he just sat. But the effect was instant. People sat up straighter. Reporters exchanged glances. Phones started coming back out. The entire atmosphere flipped. This wasn't just a legal case anymore. It had turned into a spectacle. Diddy saw him immediately. Witnesses said his whole posture changed. His jaw clenched. He leaned forward and whispered something to his lawyer. His fingers, which had been still just moments earlier, now dug into the edges of the table. Everyone could see it. Whatever grip he had left was slipping. Even the prosecutor felt the shift. She stopped pacing and let that moment sit in the air. Like she knew that what had just entered the courtroom wasn't just a person. It was a statement. Cassie glanced toward 50 Cent for a split second. No smile, no reaction, but everyone noticed. That one look was enough to rattle the defense. Papers were flying between hands. Urgent whispers filled their side of the room. Diddy kept glancing back at 50, clearly unsettled. Meanwhile, 50 didn't move. He just sat there, arms crossed, not blinking, not reacting. He wasn't there to watch. He was there to make sure he was seen. Then things took a turn no one expected. This wasn't part of anyone's game plan, not Diddy's, not his lawyers, not even 50's, but it would be a moment that changed everything. Cassie was back on the stand that afternoon, sharing more of her experience. This time she talked about an incident in 2018 at Diddy's Miami home. She said she was locked in a room for more than a day, all because she had talked to another executive. But here's the twist. It wasn't Cassie who broke under the pressure, it was Diddy. As she told the story, he started shaking his head. Then came the quiet muttering to his lawyers. Then the nervous leg bounce. And suddenly, he snapped. He slammed his palm down on the table and shouted that what she was saying wasn't true. The sound echoed through the room. Everyone froze. Even the court reporter stopped mid-keystroke. But Cassie didn't flinch. She stayed calm and unfazed. Judge Harmon raised her gavel and gave Diddy a clear warning. One more outburst, and he'd be removed. But Diddy wasn't done. He locked eyes with 50 Cent, not Cassie, and growled at him, accusing him of waiting for this moment and vowing he'd regret it. Security didn't wait. 2 guards moved in immediately, one standing behind Diddy, another between him and the gallery. The tension in the room was off the charts. Everyone was waiting for something worse to happen, but 50 didn't even blink. He leaned back in his chair, crossed his legs, and just stared. No words, no reaction. He let Diddy unravel.
So I was in the courtroom where this trial is taking place, and I was sitting right behind Cassie Ventura's husband, and I watched him as he sort of glared at Sean Combs at times, at the family, especially during the period of time where the prosecution showed photos of 13 men, different races, predominantly black men. These are all men that Cassie was able to identify in terms of names sometimes and where these freak-offs, these alleged freak-offs took place. From cities like LA, Miami, New York, Las Vegas, etc. I can only imagine how painful it must be to sit there and listen to that testimony regarding your wife and the number of people that she says she had because of these freak-offs. Something else worth noting is that Ventura continues to say this was all about what Sean Combs wanted. So today she mentioned that she said she primarily reached out to the escorts, but says that was her job and Combs expected her to do so.
Cassie, still on the stand, didn't skip a beat. She kept testifying like nothing had happened. The judge didn't call for a break either. She let that silence hang and then looked Diddy straight in the face and told him to get it together or she would do it for him. And for someone like Diddy, a man who built his whole image on being in control, those words probably hit harder than anything else that day. As the afternoon dragged on, the courtroom got quieter and heavier. No one wanted to break the silence. Even reporters, who normally slipped out for coffee or bathroom breaks, stayed in their seats, afraid they'd miss something. Because in that moment, it was clear Diddy didn't feel untouchable anymore. That outburst showed people something they hadn't seen before. Not in TV interviews, not in past controversies. This wasn't the polished mogul with the smooth answers. This was someone cracking under the pressure, live in front of the world. While Diddy was losing his grip inside the courtroom, 50 Cent was gaining momentum outside of it. What started as whispers quickly turned into headlines. TMZ ran with it first, calling it a courtroom showdown. Social media followed fast. Twitter lit up with old interview clips, videos where 50 had been calling Diddy out for years. Back then, people brushed it off as rap drama. Now, it hit different.
You have something huge coming up, a documentary about P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Did he do it, right?
I know
he did it. You've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it actually. Puffy was playing with your boo in Miami. You know it was in Miami.
Says things, he doesn't even know what he's saying is like fruity.
But I also didn't participate. I also didn't go to those parties.
Yeah.
So a lot of the celebrity culture that you don't hear saying anything is because they participated to a degree.
So was there a reason you never went to those parties back in the day? Obviously, I know what was going on there, but is there a reason you never did?
I'm just not with all that freaky shit. Like all of the stuff that he's doing, I'm not into that type of stuff. I'm just a little more, maybe you could say basic or normal.
One clip from 2009 resurfaced. 50 was telling a host there were things about Diddy that didn't sit right with him. He said the man had secrets, and now it looked like those secrets were finally being dragged into the light.
I haven't had issues with Puffy. I don't like him like that. Like I don't like things that he would do and make me uncomfortable.
So we're speaking on Diddy. We're speaking on Puff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't have that thing where we ain't had no thing. I wasn't sending nothing at him, big. If it was on the street side like that, we would be actively doing things to each other.
Right.
And we wasn't doing that. Right. So it gets to with Jay, definitely not that. That's definitely not. It's just being competitive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I look at it, I go, whoa, so I always go into what would I do in a situation like this? Like when that type of thing happens. Like, and I'm going, I don't know. I hope things are all right for him internally.
Speaking on?
I mean, at the crib. Because in the statement they mentioned his
you're talking about Jay?
His daughter
Gotcha.
would, being old enough to, because she about 13.
Right.
So it's the same age as his kids.
Back in court, Diddy had gone completely quiet. His lawyers huddled around him during breaks, speaking in low, urgent voices. On the other side, Cassie's team looked steady. Their witness had held it together. And Diddy, he broke, right there in front of a federal judge. Even the jury couldn't ignore it. One older juror, who had been calmly taking notes all trial, was now just sitting stiff, arms crossed, lips tight. Another one was scribbling as fast as they could, while Cassie spoke, like they didn't want to miss a single word. And in the back of the courtroom, 50 Cent was still there, watching. At one point, court security asked him if he planned to stay the whole day. He didn't say a word, but honestly, he didn't have to. Because by that point, everybody already knew this wasn't just day 5 of the trial. This was the moment the mask came off. The moment a powerful man started to unravel in full view. The day the industry realized the game had changed. And it all started when 50 Cent walked in. But what's your take on all this? Can 50 Cent really turn the trial upside down? Let us hear your thoughts in the comments. If you're as shook as we are, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more piping hot updates. We're watching it all, so you don't have to.